Hi, everyone. It's Katie Harris, owner and CEO of Nurspreneurs, and I am here today with Lorrie Morgan from Red Hot Copy. I am so excited to introduce Lorrie to everybody. So she is just an A-lister copywriter, and we are going to talk about copy and what it means for your business and why you need it and how you do it and all that kind of good stuff.
And what
So,
it is.
Lorrie, yeah, what it is. It's like the one thing you didn't know that you needed that was missing. Lorrie, thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, I'm so excited. My sister is a nurse practitioner, and she does something similar to what you coach women on to, or not women, but nurses on. So she does home health care. It's pretty cool.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's great. Actually, home healthcare is like one of those areas where we have nurses who have literally taken the patient education manuals and rewritten them so that the patients can actually read them. And I don't think they realize that that's copywriting. It's like an amazing
Exactly.
form
I
of
was
it.
going to say that. So why don't I explain what copy is real quick? Um, for people who don't know. So you guys are starting your own businesses, and the copy is basically the words that sell people into your programs or into your businesses. It's called salesmanship in print. So it's anywhere that you have a message that you want to get out to people. So that can be in a Facebook ad, it could be on your website, it could be on Instagram and emails. I mean, it covers the whole gamut. So it's wherever there's words that talk about you, that's called copy. Like when I became a copywriter, I didn't even know there was such a genre at all. I have a journalism background, and I'd never heard of copywriting. But it's everywhere. Once you know what it is, it's like, oh, it's on the back of my cereal box. It's like it's freaking everywhere. It's
Yeah.
pretty.
No, I think when we say copywriting now, like most people think of some sort of like, like a legal term. I think that's
Exactly. And it's spelled differently too, by the way. But a lot of people will contact me and say, I need to trademark something. I'm like, no, that's not really what I do. That's not it at all. But it is confusing because it's the same word, spelled different.
Yeah. So, Lorrie, how did you get into copywriting from journalism?
So I never really did anything with journalism, to be honest. I went to school in North Carolina and I graduated, but I always wanted to be an actress. And I went to California to be an actress instead of being a journalist. And I ended up, I horrible at acting. I suck. So I ended up getting married instead and having two amazing kids and staying at home and being a stay-at-home mom. And it was wonderful until I got divorced and I had to get like a regular job. And so I became an executive assistant and for a CEO. So it was like high level, but nevertheless, I was away from my kids all the time. And I absolutely hated it because I had become used to being a stay-at-home mom, and it was wonderful. So this was in the mid to late 90s, and I'm like, that's when the internet started burgeoning. So I'm like, I've got to figure out how I can work from home. I have a journalism degree. I can write. Let's figure out how to sell from home. And so I put up my shingle as sort of like writing press releases and stuff like that, or helping people with their website. I didn't call it copy because I didn't know that was such a thing. But then I got this client who wanted me to write a series of autoresponders. And autoresponders are, when you sign up for something, then you get put on the list and you get mailed over and over again. And I never heard of what an autoresponder was, but I fell in love with the style because it was very conversational and connecting in a different way than like journalism was. It's much stiffer. And I learned some good things from journalism, but it wasn't the same kind of flow that I discovered in copywriting. I'm like, this is fantastic. I'm going to be the best that there is at this. And then this was in the early 2000s. So like, it was people were doing it, but there weren't trainings like there are now. Like now you can learn it, but back then you had to know who was in the know, who the gurus were, and then or you worked for an agency. And I just figured I'm going to figure it out on my own. You probably have that with your nurses too. Like I just figured it out on my own. So that took about 3 years. And when I hired my first mentor, John Carlton, that's when my life changed. That's when I was able to put it all together. And I could write for, any kind of industry. I've written for so many different types of industry as sort of like a gun for hire. I've worked for agencies Also, I've worked as a copy chief, correcting other people's copy, and in just about every kind of industry you can think of, like from survivalists um, to mompreneurs to real estate, just all kinds of different things, because I've been doing it over 20 years now. So that's how I kind of fell into it, to be honest. But I absolutely love it. And it's my partner and I bought a ranch in Arizona last year during the pandemic because I've been able to make a good enough living, working from home as a copywriter. And it's been pretty awesome. We have chickens and horses and dogs. It's awesome.
Oh, that is awesome. I love that. So in terms of like copy, you said you had a journalism degree, but did that help you with copywriting at all, do you think? Or
Not really. The only thing that was useful was what's called the inverted pyramid, which is putting the most important information first. And copy's not exactly like that, but you have to hook them first. So there are very few parallels to it. The style is totally different because you write in conversation, the way we talk, that's how you write in copy, because you don't want people to be reading your copy and then have to go back and read it again because they didn't get it the first time. When they start thinking about what it is that they're reading, then you've lost them. I mean, that's, I suppose, is true in any kind of writing, but you're not supposed to see the writing. It's supposed to kind of disappear. But yeah, journalism didn't really do a whole lot of anything for me except give me a degree.
yeah, and it's the same with academic nursing, because we have learned to like write in really dense scholarly paragraphs, and it like
Right.
speaks to no one. It's so like it's just awful. So I have people who say, well, I have a PhD, and they're like, oh well, you have all this stuff, and I'm like, but I had to unlearn everything that they taught me in order
Right.
to write. And even the whole medical industry has that problem now, because we have created these patient documents that only speak to um, academic people, and the patients, it's actually hurting patients because they don't understand the instructions.
Exactly.
So
True.
yeah, so how do you see copy helping in that aspect?
Well, it builds relationships, really. I mean, it's nursing, I think, is one of those careers where you have to be good at building relationships. So I have, like I said, my sister's in it, and I have a lot of friends who are in it. But that's what you have to do with copy, or you're trying to make a connection through a screen or through a phone or whatever it is. And so it's really important that the words are the way we would speak. And what you're talking about is so common. I actually, right now, I do coaching for health professionals who want to bring their businesses online. And they do what I call a word salad, where they throw all these technical terms, stuff that they understand, but it's not appealing to a layperson or to a patient who wants, some information about, like, say, weight loss or cancer remission or anything like that. Some of the words that they use, they just really have to be, I hate to say dumbed down, but they have to be more simple. And it's not in a condescending way at all. It's that you don't want people to get in their heads and think about what they're reading. You want them to be like cruising along in the flow and understanding exactly what you're saying without having to pause and go not even read one sentence twice, because that means your writing didn't do what it's supposed to do. You're supposed to have them in a trance and then want to sign up with you at the end, because they're just so engaged.
Yeah, and that's definitely an art form, and it's something that I remember thinking that it was that you had to hide all the good stuff first, and you have all this like lead up to it. And it wasn't until I started working with copywriting that it was just kind of like, no, put the good stuff out there first,
Yeah.
to really hook people in. So how do you hook people when you're writing copy?
Well, you want to be very benefit oriented, because it's all about me, right? Everybody's all about, what am I getting out of this? And no matter how altruistic you are, you still want to know what's in it for you. So you want to make sure that you express the benefits of what they're going to get early on and continually, kind of hammer that home, that they're going to get results. They're going to get freedom of time, save money, better health, whatever the results are. So you want to make sure that that's really played up. Another good thing that you can do with your copy is tell the story of how you got into doing what you're doing. And I'll bet a lot of your community has great stories because they've pivoted from being one kind of nurse into being another kind, right? So that what made them change? Was there an inciting event, some kind of thing that happened in their life that they're like, I've got to make this shift. Like for me, it was wanting to be home with my kids again. It could be that simple. And then you write your story around that. You don't have to belabor it, but that makes people connect with you because they're like, oh yeah, I could, she did that. I could do that too. Or, whatever it is, it brings humanness into your copy. So that's something that you definitely want to always have your story somewhere on your website, or make sure that I have my story like everywhere. It's just to connect, because people don't know me. A lot of you guys don't know who I am. And so, if I tell you a little bit about who I am, that starts breaking through the ice.
Yeah, I think that's really important to it, because I was surprised to learn, and pretty late on, that the About page was like the second most visited page of your website. And a lot of times we do just kind of make a list of like a resume or something there, instead of like trying to connect with people.
That's very true. A good point, because it is a huge mistake. And you should explain your credibility, but you want to wrap it in a story, because it's more. Stories lower people's sales resistance. It builds that relationship so much better.
Yeah, it really does. And especially for the medical profession, I think, because, we see a lot of these websites where you have a very kind of like very academic person. Let's take a physician or a nurse leader or something who has all these credentials, and it's actually somewhat intimidating, like, as opposed to a more relaxed style that you could actually approach this person.
That's really true. Yeah, you want to be approachable for sure, and want to be like, yeah.
So is there some sort of structure that you use when you start writing copy? I mean, it just seems so like, it seems like such a big thing. Like maybe we could break down copy a little bit.
Wow, that's a huge topic right there. So it's like breaking down nursing, except it's not. There is a formula. There absolutely is a formula. So what you do, and I'm going to talk about long sales copy, because that's what I learned. And then when you take long sales copy, and what I'm talking about are those sales letters that go on for pages, and you're like, I will never read all of this copy. But that is the beginning of any copy, because if you can write all that's got everything but the kitchen sink in it, then you can shorten it and condense it for smaller posts and for emails and things like that. So I'm going to just talk about long copy first. So the first thing you're going to see is the headline. And I tend to write my headlines last, once I know the direction my copy is going to go. But when I first started it, I wrote the headline first. So it's just a matter of preference. I recommend writing it last. But you're going to read it first. So you'll have a compelling headline that is either, maybe it's curiosity provoking, like, or it's inclusive, like, who else wants these results? That's a very common copywriting template. You can look at magazines or publications like Prevention Magazine. They do so much testing, and you kind of look at how they write headlines and start paying attention. Like if you're the grocery store or whatever, or go to a site called magazine.com, and it will show you every magazine cover that's out this month, and then just kind of look through the headlines and see that, how they're writing them, and use those as templates and formats. So first you're going to see the headline, and then you're going to have a strong opening or hook. And that may be related to the headline, or it may be something completely different. One of my favorite hooks, a way of getting people in, well, there's two. One is, if you have this problem, then I have the solution. And then, of course, you make it a little sexier than that, but that's the bare bones of it. If you have this problem, then I'm going to give you this solution. And the other way is like with a story. It's like, I started out doing blah, blah, blah. And you talk a little bit about yourself, but then you bring it back around to them. And that's where that part's a bit of more of an art form. The first one I told you is just about anybody can do, where you are looking to solve a problem for somebody. That's what we want to do. So you call it out right at the beginning. Like if you're a person with cancer, I can help, or something along those lines. Of course, there's transitions and things like that, but let's stick with, there's the opening, problem, the solution, testimonials, if you have those, social proof that you've helped other people, you want to put that in there. Another thing to work on are easy to read bite-sized pieces of copy, like bullets. So bullets are a list of usually benefit-oriented things, not just a list of what you do, like I go to your house, I make your appointment, blah, blah, blah. You want to make it sexier, like free up, don't be a burden to your loved ones by calling our company. That's a terrible bullet, but you want to make it a little more enticing. And I just don't, I can't reel them off the top of my head. I should have made a list of them. So those are the kinds of things you want, is your headline, your opening, social proof, bullets that are benefit oriented, and then what your offer is. And then with your offer, I mean, that's the whole point of the sales letter, is to sell something. So you have to have an offer. And if there's any sort of guarantee, I don't know if nurses have guarantees or not. That may not be appropriate. Do nurses have guarantees?
Yeah, ultimately it depends on the business model. So some of our nurses have cannabis consulting businesses. Some of them have IV hydration businesses. Some of them are coaching or consulting. So, I guess you can guarantee that you have a proven system, or you could guarantee, but not necessarily results.
Exactly. Or you can try it for 14 days, and if you don't like our program, you can opt out, something like that. So at any rate, in most copy, a guarantee is a good thing because it reverses the risk. So it makes it easier for someone to say yes, because they're like, I'm not cornered. If I try this, then I can still, get out of it. And even if they don't ever act on the guarantee, it sometimes pushes them over the edge to make that choice. So those are the basic components of a sales letter. And a lot of that's also, if you look at Facebook ads, you'll see that same structure, more or less. There's other issues with Facebook ads I won't get into, but compliance and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Constantly changing too. So
I know.
So what are like different types of copy? So you mentioned a long sales letter, and a lot of our nurses would have a services page or something, but okay.
Exactly. So you're on the right track. I mean, if you go to a website or even your own website, you're going to have your sort of your landing page that kind of is like, ta-da, here we are. And this is kind of who we serve and how great we are. And you have testimonials and things like that. You have great testimonials. I was watching them. And then you have your about page, which I'd love to see more of your story in there, to be honest with you, Katie, because I think people relate more. It's so easy to get into our own alphabet soup and our credibility, because it's like, no, I've earned all these things, and you have. But what makes you human is the story aspect. So the about page is still considered copy. The description, like for your podcast, just the description itself is copy. And the order form, anything where they're actually making an appointment, or if they order something online, that's also copy. And keeping in contact with emails is very important to keep nurturing the people in your community. So you want to keep, giving them tips on stuff that your business could do for them, or that they could do for themselves. You don't want to be selling all the time. You want to be informative, because you're also building relationships and nurturing a lot too. So it's really, it's like everywhere. It's
Yeah,
hard to
the
escape it.
email is a big the email is a big one because I've had a lot of nurses like set up their email service provider, and then like a couple months later, I'm like, okay, well, how many times did you email? Well, I couldn't think of anything to say. So, what do you say to like people
Ah,
that have that
I
issue?
have that trouble myself. Actually, I really do. I like, it's, I have to force myself at times to write emails, and then other days it's like, oh my gosh, I have so much to say. They're going to get tired of hearing from me. So I'll try to sit down and write a bunch of emails at once. So, and also if I'm doing a product launch or something, then that's easy because I'm writing emails that, for a specific reason. But just to stay in contact with them, then I look to my real life. Like I told you, we have baby chicks. I have 8 baby chicks, so they're like a week and a half old. So I write about my baby chicks, and then I can bring that back into a lesson about copywriting. So let me think of how that would be, because I just start writing about what's going on in my life, and then I like circle it back randomly to some kind of a lesson. So that could be how fast things grow. And then I can write an email around that because they're already twice the size of since I got them a week ago. So it's something like that, or protecting your business against predators, or things that
Those are
it's.
good. Those are like completely off the cuff here. That's awesome.
I'm going to be writing this email later today because it's time. But look at what's in your life, because people are really interested. People write me back, and they tell me about their chickens, or their horses or whatever, and then some of those people have become customers. It doesn't. It's you're in for the long haul, building the relationship. So it's just pay attention to what's going on around you. If you're frustrated, you're driving and you're in traffic, and that person doesn't know how to drive, something that simple, or you took a walk on the beach and you found a really cool seashell. It doesn't have to be earth shattering. It can just be in fact, those are the more interesting ones to read, the ones that are not, that you don't spend so much time, they're just personal.
Yeah, and I mean, just you telling your story about the chicks, no matter how short, like it just makes you more relatable. Like, oh, she's,
Yeah,
you can approach this woman like she seems real and like down to earth, and
right.
it makes a huge difference. And it doesn't feel like you're just like hammering us with a sales pitch or something. And it's completely different.
Exactly. It's authentic. And that's
Yeah,
what you want to be. It's like how you would be if you were face to face with a person. And that's one of the things that I do with my copy too, that's really important to me, is to act as though, when I'm writing my copy, to act as though I'm writing it, or not even writing it, but talking it to a person who's in my office with me. So it's not great grammar. It's not complete sentences necessarily. It's how we talk. And that's what I strive for, because that's what's more connecting, the authenticity, not
yeah,
perfect grammar.
it's funny because like it's so much easier to write as you would talk, and it's funny because like when I used to write scholarly papers for university and stuff, I would write how I talk, and then I'd have to translate it
Translate
into the
it.
scholarly language. Whereas now I'm just like write as I talk, and it's done. It's perfect.
Exactly. But so it's funny because they taught you to unlearn how to write naturally, right? And that's what they do. And then you have to relearn it again.
I, I, absolutely. So, how do you kind of take somebody, let's say a business owner, and one, convince them that copy is necessary for their business? Let's start there.
Oh, that's a good one. Well, it's, if you use words in your business in any way, you need copy. So it's funny because it's one of those skills that is the last thing that people look at. It's getting better, but when I started it was the last thing. It's like, oh, I need a new website design, I need a new logo, I need a brand. But it's like, you do kind of, but what you really need is to connect on a human level with people. So you need to have words that are going to connect and build relationships, because that's what sales is about. That's what building your business is about. And that's what copy does. It's building a relationship on paper, basically.
So how do you take a student that maybe has zero copywriting skills and help them to learn something like that?
Well, I've always been a big proponent of learning how to write copy for yourself, because as a paid copywriter, we're super expensive. It's my last my last product launch was like 20 grand, and I'm on the cheaper side, honestly. That it can be, 20 to $50,000 plus royalties. They'll want a piece of what it is that they're writing, depending on what structure you come up with. So it's most entrepreneurs or people who I like working with are the people who are just getting started, because they're still like excited and they're willing to try new things. That's my favorite group of people. And they usually don't have that kind of money laying around. So my favorite thing to do is to get them to have enough confidence to write the copy themselves, and maybe, depending on who it is, they can hire me to edit it afterwards. But I think it's empowering to be able to put your own story and your own sort of magic into your messaging, and to be able to replicate it over different platforms, because it's not all one thing anymore. It's multiple platforms that we have to be, have a presence on. And even though you can recycle that copy sort of, right, you could be on Facebook and Instagram and emails, and it can all be almost the same or even the same. It still has to work. So one of the things that I do is I'm teaching a course right now, which I know we're going to talk about, but the deeper course that we're getting into, like market research and writing your own story. That's one of my favorite ways to get people to launch, is to write their business story. Like, I was in this business. Here are some of the problems of that business. Then this happened. Like, I got yelled at by a supervisor one too many times. I'm tired of waking up exhausted after 5 days of shifts in a row, or something that like broke you. And I knew something had to be different. And so I talked to my friend Katie, who was mentioning Nurspreneurs, and I started this kind of business. And now my life is like this. So it's like the nightmare and the dream. So you show them the nightmare, what broke them, and then show them how they rebuilt it to the dream. So if you can start off by writing your own sort of business story, that will support you in, like you said, on your about page. That's very highly read. People just jump to it like, let's see what this person is about, not like, where you went to school. Although it's sure that's important, but we want to know, are you relatable, and that kind of stuff, the human part of you. So that's where I like to get people started, because everyone has their own story and it's going to be unique.
Yeah, I jumped from your homepage directly to the about page because I wanted to know, more about you, like straight away.
Exactly right.
Yeah, no, that's really good. That's it, because I think it's so hard, like when you're first getting started out. Like you said, you're worried about the website, and it's funny because I've had a lot of nurses start like a Wix website or Squarespace and stuff, and you get the kind of the stock images and the lorem ipsum, and it's just kind of like, oh, I actually have to write something here. And writing your business story can actually be very difficult, to get started. And I'll tell you, when I started writing my business story, I had forgotten about a lot of things that had happened that led me to what I'm doing. And I ended up coming up with this one story that was very pivotal in what I was doing. And it was just an episode where I kind of blew up at one of my attendings, and nurses relate to that story so much. Like, that's the one email that they respond to me, constantly, because it was, and I was a little embarrassed to put it out there too. It was a little hard to do.
That's a good point, because sometimes the more vulnerable you are, the more people are going to connect. They really do. They come out of the woodwork and go, oh, I'm sorry that happened to you, or I relate to that. So if you can, yeah, get out of your own way and really be human and let your flaws show a little bit, people respect that and they connect to it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can also go the opposite way and share too much, right? Is that possible?
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. Now that's where we get into the art of it, the art of editing and cutting things down. But it's always better to overwrite and edit than it is to underwrite, because you can always par it down, but it's hard to build it back up. And so, and you might also, there may be things in there that you, like you said, you forgot about some of the things. So if you just kind of sort of brain dump all the stuff that you've gone through, then you can cherry pick what makes the most sense. And it may take a little while, but once you've got your story down, like if you do speaking, it's something that you'll share on stage. If you do things like, your podcast, any kind of live casts and things like that, you'll be telling different versions of your story at different lengths. So it's always good to have it in your back pocket. It's never going to be a bad thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was actually when I started copywriting, the one thing that I realized was, again, in academics, some of the PowerPoint presentations that I was doing had where they were like really information piled on. So that was like, all right, well, you can look at the slide later because it's too busy. And then I switched over to do webinar or presentations based on the way that I learned how to do in copywriting. So, I mean, there's so many uses for copy. Yeah.
There really are. That's a good point too, because it's still the same flow, like attracting attention, staying benefit oriented, and boosting your credibility so they know that you can help them. So it's all weaving that all in, and it's trust me, people can do it. There is a formula. It's a big topic, but there's a basic formula, and then you just kind of can go from there. It takes a little structure, I promise.
Yeah. So you said you also work in different industries. Like, how are you able to write for all these different industries?
Research, baby. I do lots of research, because that's one of the things journalism did help me with. But of course, it was before the internet, so I had to relearn how to do that. But just you go deep into where your target market hangs out, go into forums that they hang out at, go on Amazon and look up books on that topic and read the reviews, and that people are very open about what their problems are and what kind of solutions they're looking for. You can find out a lot of information in reviews. Reddit is another one where you can find groups that are in different industries where people are very, open and communicative about what their issues are. And you can also look at how they speak, which is really good to reflect back in your copy. If, as a copywriter, like I have to be one of them, like I have to blend in. I can't stand it. Like I would have to, even though I'm working with health professionals right now, to blend into the nurse vibe, I would do more research to know more of what your problems were before I would actually sit down to write it. But like with survival stuff, I'm just reading all these books about, growing your own food and hunting and guns and all that, or whatever it is, whatever that industry is. You just read as much as you can about it and kind of absorb it. And that's where you can also get into, I'm getting on a little bit of a tangent, I'm sorry, but as a copywriter, you can get into a little bit of rabbit hole, because there's so much information that can be found, and it's very easy to procrastinate writing and say, oh, I can just do some more research, and the next thing you know, like your deadline's getting away from you. So you do have to.
It's good. Yeah, it's good to know that you have procrastination stuff too.
Oh gosh, yes. Oh yes.
But it sounds like you found an avenue for your acting as well, because it sounds like you're almost doing acting while you're doing copywriting, right? Because you have to become one of them.
That's so funny you made that connection. That's exactly true. It's very much like that, because as you're building the person that you're talking to, or as you're coming up, I was telling you, we talk one-on-one when you're writing, that's almost a character. So she's a blend of all the people who are in my community. So it's the people who tend to be on my email list are or that I sell to tend to be women, although there's certainly men. They tend to be in their, I would say, 40s to 50s. Sort of their kids are usually out of the house. So they have a lot of qualities, but it doesn't mean I don't have 20-year-olds and 70-year-olds. But I just take that one person and I mold everything together and create her like a character. And then I talk to her.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so about the course that you are teaching right now and how it can help nurses with their business and what they're doing.
Oh, yes. So I am teaching a course called the Simple Writing System, which John Carlton, the guy I was telling you, was my mentor that shifted my career from just kind of being a wannabe to being a solid A-list copywriter. And he put together this system. I've been one of his teachers since it started in 2009. I've also had my own systems, mostly selling to women specifically because there's a lot of testosteronal copy, shall we say, very, very masculine copy that was the way it was written for the longest time, and now it's more centered and relationship built. But at any rate, the Simple Writing System is the template I was talking about, but it's in more detail about how to actually, infuse your story, infuse your benefits and all that, and to create your own sales letter. And it is designed around the long form copy sales letter, but it doesn't matter because you use it, as I said, for everything else. But that's the big course that is a bit of an investment. It's not a huge investment, but you can start on a free course that's called the Express course, where you can kind of dip your toe in and see if it's something that even interests you. And it's called the Express course. And there are 3 lessons where you go in. They're like 5 to 10 minute videos for each lesson. It's very easy instructions to follow. And then I go in personally for the rest of this week, or is it till next week? I can't remember, this week or to next week, where I'll go in and I actually give you feedback on your copy. And it's not copy per se. It's one of them is how to get that conversational tone and how to explain your problem. And John explains it really well in this video. Another one is how to come up with your elevator speech that you would say at a cocktail party or when you're telling somebody what it is that you do quickly. And then another one is the offer. So that's what each of those lessons are, but it's completely free, no obligation. And I love doing it because I love teaching. So I go in there every day, several times a day, and see who've submitted things. And like I said, I think we're doing it for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and especially the elevator pitch and that offer. Oh my God, that's so important. Yeah, because I think a lot of times we kind of forego that opportunity when somebody's like, "Hey, how are you? What do you do?" And we throw it away. And it doesn't have to be salesy, right? Like nothing is salesy, but you can frame it in a way that elevates you or it promotes curiosity, at least, at the very least.
It is. It's one of my favorite ways of that particular lesson. The way he lays it out is one of the best ways I've ever seen somebody lay out an elevator speech. And I've always had trouble with that myself because it's, you have 30 seconds and you've got to get them curious and give enough information that they want to know more. So that was a little challenging for me before I saw how John did it. And it's amazing. Very cool.
Yeah, that he's very good at that. All right, so it's a free Express course right now, and it goes over elevator pitch, offer, and what was the third thing?
How to write a conversational opening, basically. He calls it the barroom chat, like how you would talk to somebody about your problems in a bar, but you don't solve it. You just this is my problem, and you put it out there, and then that's the first one. That's also
and that it is, and it's actually the one thing that we always kind of like. We want the nurses to maintain their nursingness, because like a lot of times they'll come into business and feel like they have to be very I don't know what the word is, like rigid or something. And it's like, no, we need you to be a nurse and listen and use all those skill sets that you have that you already know, because you know how to relate to people. You already know how to relate to people. That's like a skill set that we've honed in over the years and really
I
refined.
believe it. Right.
Yeah. And funny because like the doctor will come in and, blah, 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 and then leaves. And then the family, the first thing they do is turn to the nurse and they're like, what did the doctor just say? Like, what are our options here? We don't understand.
Totally. That is so true. I see that happen all the time. And for me too, you need the nurse to translate it. So yeah, you guys already have that part down. It's just putting it into words that are in print. And that's where sometimes people get freaked out a little bit, but there's nothing to freak out about. It's just, it's very translatable, and you do already have a lot of the skills. So it's just putting it into that format.
Right. So I feel like this is an opportunity to reaffirm that you're on the right track, and what you already know is what we need to move forward with and work with in a lot of ways.
Well, exactly. And I am not, I don't know, how do I say this without sounding really grandiose, but I'm not, it's a great opportunity. You will be getting feedback from me, and I am one of the best. I was just listed, I'll put it this way. I was just listed as one of the greatest copywriters, past and present, out of 100 copywriters for this year. So I have cred. That's all I can tell you. I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to be offering it all for free because I love it. I love teaching this stuff, and it's so cool when the light bulbs go off and people get it. And I mean, at the very least, I'd love to have people in the full program, but at the very least, you're going to come away with 3 very valuable lessons and some building blocks for your copy. So it's a great opportunity.
Absolutely. So if you want to participate in this opportunity, the URL is under here, and I'll put it in the feeds of all the different places that we're streaming. But it's, the tinyurl.com/SWS, which is Simple Writing System RN. So I thought that was pretty simple. But anyway, I'll put that in the thread so that you have it and you can rewatch this video. And oh my gosh, you definitely don't want to miss this opportunity to have Lorrie listen to your elevator pitch, your offer, and your conversational pitch that you're going to put together in this course. Because I mean, that is worth, I can't even say how much that's worth. It's worth everything if you can get just one person interested in what you're doing and in your business. It's so valuable. So
agreed. You know what? It's fun too. It's actually fun when you start doing it and getting out of your own way, getting your message down, as you know, you're going to help more people ultimately, and that's cool.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool. All right, Lorrie. Where can I guess people find you too? If they can find you at the Simple Writing System RN. That's the best place, I think.
That is the best place.
Yeah, you're not going to get Lorrie for inexpensively, so you can get her for free for a very limited time. But yeah, if you want to spend 5 figures or more, then you can go to her website. But I would suggest you go to tinyurl.com SWSRN and work with her for free for the next week or 2 that she's offering this crazy course.
Exactly what it is. Exactly. And my site is redhotcopy.com, but I don't have anything as valuable right now on that site as there is as this course right now. So I highly encourage people to go.
Yeah, awesome. Lorrie, thank you so much for talking to us today.
It's my pleasure. It was so fun. It went by super fast.
All right, everybody. We look forward to seeing you in the at this tinyurl.com /SWSRN in the Simple Writing System with Lorrie. So take care, everybody.
Awesome. Take care, guys.